13 art illusions children should know. Before we continue, I want you to stare at these circles continually and continually. You might notice that when you look at one circle, that circle seems to be staying in the same direction, and then the other circle seems to be moving, like gears. You stare at this, it feels like this is moving. Except for the circle that I painted, of course. Alright. Welcome to 13 art illusions children should know. Let's get this started with. Now, art is deception. The Greeks had this motto, and this mastered the art of illusion about 2,500 years ago. The ancient Greeks actually had the story where they said that there were two painters, Zeuxis and Paracelsus. They went ahead and drew they decided to go ahead and do this contest. They were each given a few hours to draw some paintings of things. And now Zeuxis actually painted a grape. It looked so real that even birds themselves flew down to try to eat the fruit. It felt like it was going to win, but then later the other artists drew a bunch of cartoons. And those cartoons looked so real that people tried to set them aside so they could see the real painting. But then they realized that there's nothing behind the cartoon. The cartoon itself is the painting. And of course, Paracelsus won because he drew way more carefully. Even the works of the ancient Greeks are actually deceptive themselves too. The architecture here, the Parthenon itself, is also really, really deceptive because this column is actually smaller than these columns here too. These columns are bigger, regular size, but these were made a bit smaller, but not too small though. Now, light makes things look bigger, so the light here and the shaded here actually made them look the same size, even when they're farther away and one side at one angle too. And at an angle, the columns should be different sizes, but they aren't. Of course, there are also other things too. The Romans themselves were able to use deception as well. The Romans were able to go ahead and draw things so that it looked like they were all going down into an endless stream. So it even fell out of the painting. That was in Pompeii. This was a preserved painting from Pompeii, by the way. And this is a wall from one of the houses of Pompeii itself. The Pompeii people actually went ahead and drew all these things on the scattered floor, the unswept floor. And this is actually pretty fancy at the time as well, too. So much more optical illusions that we don't have time for here, so now. Okay, next optical illusion. Our third optical illusion are concealed messages. Now, there's a skull here. Somewhere in this painting, you have drawn a skull. And you might be thinking, where is the skull, Sean? Well, these are the ambassadors. And the skull is supposed to represent how things work, like the life of things as well, too. The life of death, the death of life, those kind of things. And if you look at it from this angle, sideways, and looking down on it, then you will basically go ahead and see the skull like this. It took me 5 minutes to find the skull though, but I'll give you guys 10 more seconds to actually try to find the skull. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Alright, so the skull here is actually right here. This skull is honestly not much of a skull if you look at it too. It looks like a skull that it's made of clay and it just enlarges it like that. But that's actually what the skull is supposed to look like. If you looked at it from the angle that the white arrow has actually pointed out for you helpfully, then you can go ahead and figure out that it looks like this. And actually, it felt like that painting may have actually been put up on a staircase so that when you walk down on it, you would look at the painting and then you would see the skull right down there in the middle, and at the bottom. More or less, we also have other paintings to really talk about as well too. This one is the 4 planes of a rectangle. How did the artist even draw this? Well, first he drew this painting, then he put it into a slide projector. After putting it in the slide projector, he fiddled it around a little bit so that instead of looking like this, it ended up looking like this. Something like that. And yeah. Of course, then we also have things that are illogical, but just seem logical towards us, while the other things that aren't illogical actually are. Now, this is a goblet, but how can a goblet be this big when it's actually just as big as the size of a flower vase? Well, you see that these are ships, and there are houses, and so it feels like the goblet is the big thing too, and it is. But it's just that the goblet makes so much more sense than the tiny houses. Alright, next up we have this too, personal values. It feels like, how can a comb be this big? It can't be too. But then again, my actual method of drawing this is like make a model of a house, put a camera there, put a comb there, and put a brush there, like that. Like make a little doll version of the house with a room without the comb and this, and then go ahead and make it. Afterwards, put in the comb and the brush. It just feels like it's like a doll. There's a house for a doll, but then humans have put some things inside there too. And we even have this. It just feels like this little empty part of the horse itself is missing too. And if I ever get my hand on this painting, I'm gonna go ahead and fill in the gaps. But there's so much more to actually talk about here too. We even have this technique called deceiving the eye. Deceiving the eye. Deceiving the eye. Now, it just feels like, how can a painted boy, just go outside of his painting? Why makes this look so real, other than the realistic face and the skin? The shadows, the hand, the feet outside. This is in the Banco de España collection in Madrid. It just makes it look so weird. And then, how can it even touch the picture frame as well? And then, of course, we find out that it's so realistic and that the background is so black that we think that, how can it be? There's even a shadow on this guy's face as well too. And then we realize that even the picture frame is painted. This man himself just looks out at us, and it feels like he's going to say something to us as well too. And this is called this kind of painting is called the quodlibet. The quodlibet. Now, the quodlibet is actually just sort of a collage here too. This looks like an old-fashioned bulletin board, but then we realize that it's also a painting as well too. All this here is actually just part of what the artist Samuel van Hoogstraat actually liked too. There's feathers, there's this book, there's this medal, and God we trust, I'm guessing that says. Of course, there's much more that happened too. And then we have the true contrasts. Here we have a banana in a yellow scene in a yellow background. It looks dark and vivid. This one with a white background sounds a bit more vivid, but not too much. And the third one with a black background. Wow, that just makes it look so bright. And this is the technique that was used in the newborn Christ painting. We'll go ahead and we drew this, the newborn Christ, where the candlelight goes ahead, illuminates Christ the most. And then, as we go into the background, farther into the distance, it just becomes less of an obvious too. We also have upside down paintings. This looks immediately like a vegetable, right? But I can immediately see this. Like, watch this. What does that remind you of? Ta-da! It also looks like a face, doesn't it? It's the same painting, just put upside down. And then we have this. It's supposed to be the Mona Lisa, but is she frowning? Well, the painter of this actually drew the Mona Lisa as well, but he kept the smile there. It's just that when you flip it upside down, it looks like the Mona Lisa is frowning. And then we have this. We see a monkey, and we see a devil. We flip it upside down. The monkey is gone, but we see a face. And we see an angel, a sad angel. Happy devil, monkey. Sad angel, whoever that guy is. And all those people who play block games such as these, this one's my favorite, by the way, you can always go ahead and find out the atmospheric pressure as well. In landscape paintings, you can usually go ahead and tell what's closer and what's farther away, because as you go farther away, it gets blocked by air, and the air itself filters it through, so it looks hazier. The closer the object, the sharper. The farther the object, the hazier. I mean, if I just look out the window, it's not as hazy as this, but I can still see buildings just not as clear as the things that are in front of me, like the tablet I'm using right now to record this video on. So much more to really talk about too, like perspective painting as well, which works like this. Instead of drawing like this, draw all everything to this towards this one little point. And then go ahead and use that technique to draw so many kinds of paintings as well too. This is just incredible, if you ask me. It's incredible. And of course, even this painting itself, it's an optical illusion. It depends on how you're looking at this as well too. In this painting, it just looks in this way. If you're looking at it this way, it looks like normal, right? And then if you look at it this way, it just looks also normal, right? Like this, and get another normal painting. Like this, another normal painting as well too. Here, and so much more. And then we even have this. This is satire on false perspective, and you can immediately see what is false about this as well too. Now this is supposed to be a little hill, and this house is supposed to be closer, but then these two people just look like beside each other as well too. This person is supposed to be on that side of the bridge, but then it feels like he's on this side of the bridge as well too. This person is going ahead and fishing, and he's basically using the same fish pole, but it's just closer, so of course it looks a bit longer, and so he can still fish here too. Also, he can't possibly fish there as well too. There's so much here that doesn't really make a lot of sense if you ask me, and so that's actually the whole point of this as well too, to make things that don't make sense and then put them together so that it does make sense too. And one more thing that can't actually possibly happen. This is sign here, but it's somehow behind those trees in the background. This is impossible. So let me point out all the things that are impossible. Yeah, that's really impossible. And of course, even architects themselves were able to do this. This might actually look like a picture of like a photo. But it's actually not. The theater in its own right is also spectacle and light. The floor rises up, the sky comes to meet it, and of course, visual actors actually used to play out scenes in the background, so they could intensify the feeling that the stage itself was actually the background itself. And this is actually how they drew this painting as well, by imagining this and then drawing this. Well, that so much more happens here too. This looks like a balcony, and if you look up, you realize you don't immediately think it's a painting because you look at it from far away. It's actually less clear, so it looks a bit more like a real person. And you wave out to them, and then of course it doesn't happen. This is mock architecture, and if you look at this painting from a distance, you think that there's a door and you run towards it to get out of this. But then a girl peeking out of it, you try to shove the girl away, but then you realize it's a painting. And this one too. This is on the ceiling of a ballroom, and it even draws parts of the top hats as well too. If you look at it from the ground, which is obviously a few hundred meters away, like a few 10 meters away, you can go ahead and immediately see things. It feels like they themselves, these gods themselves, are actually going down to go ahead and greet you. And it just feels welcoming too. It must have been very intensive and very happy too. We even have color contrast too. Colors to the trick. This painting here, Turkish Cafe, actually goes ahead and shows the contrast and how things can actually become bright too. Even black, white, and gray can actually play tricks on you as well. This section marked A and B. This might actually trick your mind. Which one is actually supposed to be lighter? Which one is lighter? Which one is darker? If you prove it. B is actually darker than A. It's just like you put some light things on there too. It's just because of this pattern that our eyes make us think that B is lighter than A. And look at this. These two colors here, they're actually different. They're actually the same color, but this one looks more green and this one looks more blue, right? Well, if I block this out, they actually go ahead and are actually the same color. With that, of course, there's so much more to go ahead here too. And then we have these optical illusions. I'm actually going to have to look away for this one because I'm wearing glasses, and these glasses make it make these optical illusions look too wavy and make my head spin too much. This is supposed to be a zebra. This is Victor Vasili's famous painting, the zebra. And we also have this. It feels like the painting itself is folded and we want to fold it out, right? Well, the dot is just a dot. And then this one too. It feels like the wave to its depth, right? And sometimes it's moving or it has some sort of energy towards it. But once you touch it though, you realize it's actually fake. That it's still flat. And then we even have these. It looks like it's moving, right? Well, that's because of the white part too, and the black shadow. The black crescent. Our eyes think of the black as the shadow, and the white as where the light is coming from. And because the blue is in those directions, we think that it's actually moving like a wave. And of course, with that, we have finished the 13 optical illusions children should know. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope to see you guys soon. Until next time, Lana, peace. Bye bye. Da 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 dun 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 da 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 dun dun da dun 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 dun